Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Beacons Are Lit, a Lord of the Rings podcast. I'm the host, Mike Marback, and today I am joined by Matt Guerin.
Hello again. How is
Stacey
everybody?
Lyons.
Hi, everyone.
We'll get to your question in a second, Matt. And
Will
Kelly
we?
Conrad.
Hi, everyone.
Hello. Before we get to talking about Lord of the Rings, as this is our first proper episode discussing actual content and going through it, not beat by beat, but more scene by scene-ish, I want to check in with the fellowship. How we doing? We're back to Matt's question, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I'm doing great. I ditched a holiday work party last night to go see The Matrix in theaters, not the new one, the original one. But they did show 2 trailers for the new one before it.
The same trailer?
No, different ones. So I do feel like I've seen the whole movie now, and I still can't be more excited to see that. Just so excited for that new Matrix. Can't wait.
Sure. Stacey, how are you?
I'm doing really good. I actually had a really good experience this morning. I went to, I don't drink coffee because caffeine makes me a little crazy, but my husband does. And he really likes this place called Royal Mile Coffee Roasters. They have a store in Cherry Hill and a store in Haddon Township. And I met the owner, and he was the nicest guy ever and gave me a bunch of free cans of cold brews. And he's opening this new cafe, and it's just a really cool place. So if anyone is into coffee, I have to plug it because the guy was just really, really nice. And I came home with a tray of cold brew cans to give out as gifts, and he helped me to my car. And I was like, this was a good day. I got some Christmas shopping done.
That's so nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was really great.
Awesome.
Matt, if you want one, I can drop one by later.
Yeah, please.
Could you drop one by me, Stacey?
Yeah, I'll gold belly it too.
Indiana.
Yeah.
A FedEx with an ice pack. Just pack it up.
In ye old Indianapolis. Kelly, how are you?
I'm good. I was like, Stacey did such a nice job. It doesn't sound like I'm good, does it?
I'm pretty good.
I'm good. I'm trying to think of an exciting thing, not even exciting, just something interesting that happened from my week, because I thought that there was one, but I'm racking my brain and coming up dry. But I'm doing well. Yeah. Thanks for asking. Mike, how are you?
I'm all right. Doing great.
Everyone's full of shit
convincing.
Right Bunch of
I'm
liars.
good. Just doing a lot of Christmas shopping from my house. A lot of ordering. Indiana is mostly chain stores, and so it's not like going out and you're supporting a small business. There are very few small businesses. The one I do support is the one where I get the CBD marijuana gummies that help me sleep, and I'm supporting the hell out of them.
What do we?
Now my sister takes them
one a night, 2 a night.
I take a half of one, so I take 12.5 milligrams, and it helps out. And that's Owsley, where you can get your CBD marijuana Delta 8, 9, and 10 gummies.
Promo code Beacons at checkout.
Yeah. Seriously.
Yeah, we are looking for sponsors.
Yeah.
Mike, do you mind spelling Owsley?
Owslee.
Okay.
Owsley.
Okay.
Use it in a sentence. I get my gummies at Owsley.
Owsley, that hurt.
Owsley Chole.
Wait, what'd you just say?
Charlie bit me? No? It's one of the first. All right, let's talk about Lord of the Rings.
Okay.
So I'd like to begin at the beginning, of course, with the prologue.
Oh.
So what are your thoughts, feelings, concerns with the prologue?
Can I just real quick?
You did raise your hand, so you may go first.
Yeah, she wasn't called on.
This was before our last episode. I started watching it, and I was like, I've seen The Fellowship so many times, and I have so much to do tonight. I'm just gonna put it on with my headphones as I move about the house and get stuff done. So I put it on. The score begins. Kate Blanchett's voice comes up, and immediately I'm just like, I can't do this. I have to sit and watch this with my eyes on the screen. That's how engaging the first moments of this movie are. before anything even comes up. It's just amazing.
Yeah. Now I won't. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Matt.
No, you go. Keep going.
All right.
I'll go.
I won't pretend to act as if this will be the most well-produced podcast you've ever listened to, but I did do a little bit of combing through some different things to try and get some information. And I will say that one of the things I learned, and I've learned all of this over the last 20 years through the different features and shit, but it's all reminders. And that is that the prologue was not something Jackson originally wanted in.
Yeah.
It was something that New Line was like, hey, we got to explain this shit to people. We don't want people just to, making shit up, going in blind. We got to just lay it all out.
It really is necessary.
Mm-hmm.
And it avoids a lot of clunky exposition because you know how they would have snuck that in otherwise or not. And then it would have been confusing. I find it very helpful.
Yeah, it was all shot, but it wasn't used until New Line was like, what's going on?
What's this movie about?
And it wasn't, to my understanding, it wasn't in like it was something they had really had a hard time with in the original script, Fran Walsh and Peter Jackson. And then they brought in Philippa Boyens, who then was like, hey, we need to set up like the elves, the ring, the immortality of the elves, Gollum. We need to do all this work and we need you to do it in 4 pages. And she like somehow did it. And it's just like, it is so insanely necessary to bring you into that world that like gives you the depth, the sense of like history and legend that Lord of the Rings has, and like just instantly gets you on board. Like I don't think you could start in the Shire and have the same like level of just like depth or like investment in the movie if you didn't have that prologue.
Well, it also sets the stakes. It's like, oh, so all of Middle Earth is at stake with what you are about to see, versus just like starting in the Shire. And it's like, oh, this is lovely.
Yeah. Why don't they just stay by themselves? It'll be fine.
Oh my
it's
God.
also a brilliant move to have Cate Blanchett voice it. And I know that they were talking about not having her do it, or they were trying to decide who should do it. Like, should Gandalf do it?
Apparently they had recorded Elijah. They had recorded Sir Ian McKellen doing it, and she won out. Continue, Stacey. I'm sorry.
Yeah, she just has the most, like, it's almost like a melodic voice, and it makes it almost like a poem or something. It doesn't sound, I don't know, it's very beautiful. I think it's well written.
The way she like tells it feels like it's like this oral history. Like it's almost like we're sitting around the campfire and like she's just spinning this like awesome story for us, because it is like, it has a storybook feel, but it also is like super serious and like dramatic and like spooky.
Yes, it's definitely, I think that's something that always strikes me when I rewatch Fellowship, is how eerie and scary it sounds, especially like the first few lines of dialogue. It sounds really scary. And just the what her voice can do is just fantastic. I mean, I'm pretty sure Cate Blanchett came from the theater, and you can just like hear all the different textures and Matt, is something funny about the theater?
Oh, no, it's really
I don't think Matt's a fan of the theater the way you are.
Original, no, I respect the theater.
Okay,
and I like the correct pronunciation of the word
of theater. And yeah, just where her voice goes is just so fantastic. The way that she says a hobbit, where she almost like encapsulates the vibe of a hobbit in her voice, and it's masterful. It's like truly masterful.
And it gives Galadriel a little bit of a bigger role in and of herself, because she's such a major player, but she's in the movie for 10 minutes, and it's nice that she almost, when she gets brought back in after the prologue, it's like, there she is. It's like it's like an entrance, it lends her something too.
Yeah.
So this episode's just on the prologue, right, Mike?
yeah, just on the prologue.
Could be.
It's also a moment where, well, first of all, it begins, much that once was is lost, for now.
For none now
remember it. Yeah. But there's also the moment where you have Galadriel narrating, and 3 were given to the elves, the immortal, wisest, and fairest of all. It's like, okay, all right, you're not wrong, Galadriel, but come on. Let's pull it back a little bit. Nobody else gets that. Everybody else is like in the fucking dwarves and the scumbag men fighting amongst themselves.
Who desire power.
Mike is calling out the bias in Elf TV.
Yeah, history is written by the winners.
I was just watching the behind the scenes before this, and like the casting director was talking about how like there's only 300,000 people in Wellington, New Zealand, and they're trying to find like a whole bunch of people to be elves that are like between 16 and 30 that are like tall, like supermodel-esque looking and available for like 2 years. And I'm like, really going all in on the elves being like the perfect, most beautiful like race in this movie.
Mm-hmm. So they're giving out these rings. 3 to the elves, 7 to the dwarves, to the dwarf lords, and 9 to the race of men, who desire, as Kelly correctly pointed out, power among all else. Yeah. And then they were all of them deceived, unfortunately.
For another ring was made.
Mm-hmm.
In the land of Mord. Are we just gonna say it?
This episode is just us reenacting
line by line. Let's go.
I was like watching the movie and I was like, I have so much to say about this. And then I was like, we should just put the movie on and then just watch it on mute and we can all talk about it as it's happening, because otherwise we're never going to move this along. Like we are going to be here forever.
I thought it was a really cool move to have, because knowing that the prologue wasn't supposed to be in there, to have that in there and all of that amazing footage of the old battle. I thought that was pretty great. And that moment where they're shooting the arrows and the one goes like skims Elrond's face and he kind of like is like, oh jeez.
That was
close. The way that
like guys.
The first like real big effects shot that like that camera like flies in like and just like soars down the cliff and like orcs are getting pushed off the cliff and the elves, their cool sword move down
one
the whole,
by
like,
one,
line.
like a wave of
so
swords.
Awesome.
Oh, I could watch elves.
So cool.
Elves should. Oh my god! And I will get to this in the Two Towers, but it just brings back that scene where all the elves are shooting the arrows in between everyone's heads.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just like, do they practice
They're that
this?
good.
Do they sit there in like elf camp and they're like, they have like two bodies set up in cardboard and they like avoid them?
That's how you get like 11-year-old kids like me on board for this movie too. Like if you started in the Shire with like, I love Howard Shore's score, but if you started with that bum bum bump like that just like real like upbeat kind of thing
concerning hobbits,
I'd be like, no thanks, hard pass. But we're starting with like this like amazing battle sequence, and 11-year-old me is like, yes, let's go.
It was it was such that like battle is what, like 2 minutes? You see like 2 minutes of it, but that's all that you needed to be like, oh, all of the battle scenes we see from now on will be so epic. Like I'm not even, I love obviously like action movies, fantasy, whatever, but that's all it took for me to be like, I want to see everything this guy does.
Also like watching that battle scene and you're like, all right, the elves guys, I think they got a shot. And then Sauron comes in and his intro is just like, they don't even have a hope. They have nothing. Yeah. You're just like, oh, you're like immediately in this world where you're like, what are they going to do? And even Isildur didn't even know what he was doing. He just like swiped in like a last ditch effort to do something. And
I have a question about that moment.
In that moment, he does kind of like does this huge reach. He's like, hey, I got my ring here. I got this ring. You see it?
What was he reaching for? What was he like?
I think I'm going to say
strangle.
The neck.
He was going for a strangle?
He was going to hold him up in the air and just crush his windpipe. That's my guess.
Stroke his cheek. Little cheek stroke.
He got a little cocky.
Got a little affection.
He did.
Got a little cocky. He went for the strangle when he should have just hit him with the big stick ball. What are those called? The like heavy thing that's a chain attached to a stick.
A mace.
Yeah. Or a morning star.
Yeah, I think Morning
Star is the one at the. Yeah, I'm not sure.
He literally could have just like stepped on his head.
Right.
That would have.
I mean,
you're right.
He's
got a little...
swatting humans like they're just like gnats. Like people are just flying all over the place.
He came in like the last person called at King of the Ring. if you watch battle royals in wrestling. Super fresh, full of energy. Comes in like what's his face, Joaquin Phoenix in Signs, where he's like, "Swing away, Meryl." Grabs that bat, starts going to town. Destroying everybody.
And like, where was he before that moment? Like, was he just like in his dressing room being
drinking
like,
tea?
"All right, yeah, give me a minute. I'm gonna get out there."
I was honestly, when I watched it last night, I was thinking, oh, it's interesting that he made an appearance. I guess like
this battle.
Yeah. Like, I guess the orcs were really just like shit in the bed. He's like, all right, let me get in there and just clean up.
Like his house, it was his house.
It's on his lawn.
He wanted to go to bed. He wanted to go to bed. He's like, let me just get this over with.
Yeah, there's so much going on in my own backyard.
There's so much more to these battles in the books, I think, where there were many battles between the elves and men and dwarves and all them. And Sauron was like even pushed back a few times or something. But this one just comes out like it's inevitable that he'll win, and then everything is going to look like Mordor. Although clarify his end game for me, because in my mind I never understand when people just want total control over the world. Like, what do they do when they have it? You know what I mean? Like, does he just want everything to like look to be orcs, or like everyone to be slaves? Like, I don't understand what
control, right?
Ultimate then control. What does he do with
power above all else.
Yeah. You just sit around and be like, now it's like when you play The Sims for too long and you're like, I'm a little bit bored now. Like, I don't.
You think Sauron's gonna get bored once he is in power? For a while?
I think he's gonna be like these orcs. Obviously, like no one's fighting me.
I think it gets into it in the Silmarillion a little bit, which I haven't read, but I've gleaned some from this past week listening to some other stuff about Lord of the Rings. I think Sauron was he's a wizard, which means he's like a being that was sent down by the gods to Earth, or to Middle Earth, and basically he wants, I think, Middle Earth to be like his entire domain. Like the gods get their world, but he is going to make this his own world and not be subject to the power or will of the gods anymore.
And as far as why
that's heavy myth that I am not well versed in.
I get that. It's just like, is anyone gonna like come in and try to like challenge him, or does he just get to like live forever with everyone listening to him all the time?
The whole battle. Or are you talking about someone on his level?
Like when he wins.
Yeah, if he were to win, like again, would he get bored?
Would he get bored? Is the question of the day.
I think that because we're to believe that Sauron is the epitome of pure evil, I'm not sure you can justify the actions of evil, right?
It's so true, Kelly.
Thank you.
So true.
So true.
Are we done here?
Yeah. All right. I'll see you guys next week.
Yeah, no, we're not.
We're still on the prologue.
But also, real quick, the prologue gives you like the maps, which I think are like super important, and just like understanding the scope of this world. I mean, we literally go from Mordor, and it sets up the perfect transition into the Shire, where we get then Bilbo takes over the narration too. But like having those maps there really just gives me like a great visual sense of like the scale and scope of what we're talking about.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So we got that one ring to rule them all, and you got all these other rings out there. So are they also have some sort of power that kind of corrupts the men, corrupts the dwarves, and gets them infighting, which probably just makes it easier for Sauron to come in and just start kicking their asses. We don't really see much of the other rings, right?
No, I mean Galadriel has one, which we'll see later on.
And her like husband or partner or something has this another one, right? And I think I think Elrond has a ring of power. I don't know if he has one of Sauron's rings of power, but I don't know the details on that.
Well, Sauron only has the one ring of.
Well, then like the ones he forged. I feel like a lot of
they're definitely the potency of them are definitely connected to the ring in some way. How cool is go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna the elves one specifically, I do remember in the book are I don't remember the wording exactly, but they're only meant to be used to enhance understanding, healing, like compassion, like goodwill, mutual aid, like those are what those rings are. Like they don't and they have to be used together, right? So like they can, and then I think he does talk about how they can be corrupted, but like only really through the use of the one ring or something like that.
Sure.
So it's like they have the power, but that power is dispersed across different people. They have to work together across to use the power of the different rings.
Take an improv class, get that agreement, working together, and really use those rings.
Sauron just needed to take an improv class.
The men still have their rings, right? The men all have the wraiths. All have their rings.
Yeah, the wraiths. Yeah.
We don't know where the dwarves' rings are. Right.
I think they cover in the Hobbit a little bit.
Yeah,
maybe.
probably.
But I don't remember exactly.
In 3 years, when we get to covering the Hobbit, once we're done with the prologue, we will find out. We will find out. So Isildur takes down Sauron, chops his hand off, which seemingly was enough. Chopped that, separated the ring from the body.
A real Death Star kind of like just weakness of just like, maybe don't reach for the guy with the one hand that all your power is tied up, and maybe use the other hand. But
maybe make it like a belt of power, and then you got a lot more chopping to do.
Yeah, armor of power, anything. So then he's got this ring and tries to escape and leaves his men after they get attacked. Like, okay, Theodore, like, come on, you gotta stand with your bros. He's ready to just like leave him in the dust. He goes swimming.
Seems like such a jabroni. Like, I just wouldn't want to like.
He
like,
does.
Not a guy you'd want to hang out with. Like, even Elrond like gives him the look at one point. Like, what are you?
I mean, did you see him when he was riding on his horse with the ring around his neck? He looked so cocky.
Such a twat.
I know.
Well, we only really get an understanding of him or see him a lot after he has the ring, and the ring corrupts. So,
okay, we don't need any men apologists in this podcast.
Yeah. That's what I'm here for.
Do we have an Isildur sympathizer here?
Hey, he's technically not even man. He's a Numenorian, I think, right? So
he is
kind of a better race.
Numenorian. Yeah,
they're our greatest hope. I'm sorry.
And you know what? It went
pretty great.
It went to his head. We'll just call it as it was.
It seems like pretty quickly, but as we will learn time and time again, men are prone to just the power of the ring. They're very fragile. They're not very strong.
No,
not at all. So he leaves his men, and the ring deceives him too. This ring seemingly has its own sentience.
Yes.
To it.
Yeah, which is also Sauron's sentience.
Yes. His spirit, right?
It's like a Horcrux for the Harry Potter people out there. And
I think
goes to the bottom of the lake.
Yeah, and I think Kate Blanchett says something to the effect of like the ring like left him, like it is the ring doing something. It does have its own
betrayed.
Will and
it betrayed
Isildur.
Yeah.
But something happened then. The ring
did not intend. It was picked up. Not before our little Smeagol
Deagle action.
His little hands on him.
Which we get to go back to in Return of the King, which
great move
to talk about. Yeah,
such a good scene. Okay.
Yeah. Ooh, getting ahead of ourselves.
Spoiler alert. So 2,500 years pass after that, and that's when Smeagol grabs it, takes it to the Misty Mountains, and begins to my precious.
Gets all weird. He gets all weird
for 500 years.
Yeah,
it poisoned his mind.
So, like, also,
I'm just here
please do a reading, please.
That just means to me, I'm watching
losing
this.
his mind, and I'm reaping the benefits.
So good.
Show me that gift.
So I'm watching this, and I'm like, okay, so it's been 3,000 years since Isildur had it to today. That means Aragorn somehow knows his ancestry back 3,000 years. That's incredible. At a time when there's not computers, like we saw Gandalf's library, like it's just scrolls.
Yeah,
like that's
probably not even organized.
I was impressed by that. No.
Yeah, it was just like piles on a desk.
Yeah, I feel like it's just something that like your parents were like, "Do you know who your great grandfather was?" And it's like, I can't verify this, but I'm the king of Gondor, so
yeah. I mean, it must have been passed down orally. Just like, oh, this is. And they had so much time. They were probably just talking about their family half the time. It's like, oh, did you know who your great grandfather was? Like, that was just a way to pass time.
Also, the battle, like, there was no new technological advances in Middle Earth because we saw the battle and it looks remarkably like the battles we're going to see in the movies. 3,000 years, not a thing.
In fact, it seems to have been declining. I mean, like the elves are leaving in the third age of Middle Earth. Like you get through all like the ruins that we see throughout like the Fellowship and just the design of the movie, like you get the sense that like the glory days are gone. Like the glory days were back with the Numenorians, like ruling the land, and we've since like fallen from grace. So it's like, I mean, you see like the structures and at the end of the Fellowship, like the two statues that are like this, like that are like
Oh
that
my
are
God.
huge, gigantic, that are like the Strait of Gibraltar kind of like looking
Yeah.
river part. But yeah, so you get the sense of like, oh, that like they used to be great. We used to be able to like do all this like amazing stuff, and since then shit's just gone downhill.
Yeah.
It's
Maybe
also
things
because
weren't so bad with Sauron in power. Am I right, guys?
no one was working together. Everybody had retreated to their separate quarters.
Right.
The dwarves, the men were in their realms. You got the hobbits throughout our next section concerning hobbits. You have them saying multiple times, like, we don't worry about what's happening outside. None of it is our responsibility. So no one's sharing any kind of technologies, trade secrets, nothing. So that's not going to help when it comes to a war, I guess. Yeah. Anything more on the prologue?
I haven't seen a better prologue since, or before. Like I can't like think of one.
It's the best prologue.
Yeah.
I will just say the one line that we somehow didn't touch on is what my favorite line in the prologue of, and then history became legend and legend became myth. And it's like, dang, that's good. I love that.
Yeah.
Well, it's such a nice handoff to Bilbo. Like it's such a dramatic shift in tone from the serious dark lore of this world to like the comedic Shire. It somehow works. I think the score plays into it a lot, but it's so good.
Well, and Ian Holm, I mean, we talk about Cate Blanchett's obviously incredible abilities as an actor, and Ian Holm is equally as talented as a narrator in a totally different way. And I just want to share this is my mom and Bilbo share the same birthday, September 22nd.
Oh, when does she turn 11D1?
111 birthday. Yeah. So just a little plug for mom.
Shout out to Kelly's mom and everyone else who was born on September 22nd.
22nd, yeah.
22nd day of September, Bag End, Bagshot Row, Hobbiton, West Farthing, the Shire, Middle Earth, in the Third Age.
That's
where we're at. 19147. It's actually South Philly, if you can believe it. Yeah.
I do think Ian Holm is like the perfect Bilbo. Like I think, I mean, we'll talk. I don't know if we ever talk about The Hobbit, but I don't know if that. What's that guy's name who played Bilbo?
Martin Freeman.
Martin Freeman. I do like Martin Freeman a lot.
I liked him.
The best choice.
I liked him too.
I liked him good. I couldn't think of anyone.
Ian Holm
better.
is like funny without trying to be funny. Like he has that. Like he just
whimsy.
embodies like he has that like Hobbit like whimsy and is kind of like clumsy and like frantic, and even when he's like angry, it's kind of like
shut up, Bilbo.
Except when he gets like scary angry,
when he gets angry,
like, actually terrible. but he has that ability to be that kind of silly funny, but then also be like the kind of authoritative position that Bilbo has in Hobbiton and in the Shire, and you do get the sense that he is like this kind of reclusive scholar,
getting to be curmudgeonly a little,
a little bit curmudgeon, and he's so good. And R.I.P. Ian Holm, best. Man.
And he's there, Holdaway in his in Bag End, preparing and poring over old maps.
Gorgeous property.
Oh, gorgeous!
Yeah, for sure.
That property. Real estate is unreal.
Yeah, I don't know what Hobbiton house market is like, but I think that house is immune to the lows.
Well, he had people banging on his door for his tract of land. So I mean,
the Sackville.
It is supply and demand.
Sackville Baggins is they want it, which is rude. It's so rude. Then
it is rude
for living this long.
They stole his spoons. They never gave them back.
You can't just show up at someone's house and be like, "It's my turn for this house." You can't do that.
On his birthday?
Living this long.
It's not right.
They have no shame, the Bagginses.
Isn't that like a thread in The Room with Tommy Wiseau? Isn't that what the mom is like? Harold wants the house, something like that. But I won't give it to him. I'm pretty sure. Oh man.
God!
Check out The Room with Tommy Wiseau for some Lord of the Rings inspired shit. I realize till now.
And
I was just
going to talk about like the real estate, like just the fact that is a real place, like that they found this farm in New Zealand. I mean, the locations in this are amazing, and I would love to talk about the production of it for like hours and hours. But like the fact that they just found this completely bucolic place to put the Shire that looks exactly like illustrations done, decades before, that I'd never seen this place, and like the months that they put into making the Shire and then like let it overgrow for like a year before like production. It's just like, and it's before color timing really took, like, I mean, they did do a lot of color timing, color correction and stuff, but like it's not so crazy as it is in the Hobbit movies, where it's like, this green hurts my eyes in the Hobbit movies, and like in this just so beautiful, you just want to move there immediately.
Yeah.
I think this movie did more for New Zealand tourism than any campaign before or after.
Yeah,
absolutely.
100%.
Yeah. If not specifically to visit those locations.
Yeah.
I love, I'm so taken with the fact that Bilbo is such a good writer, and I love the way that he writes about hobbits, and not to jump to that, but I just thought it was, and then that montage where we're like seeing the Shire and we're seeing the tendencies of the hobbits. It's like fucking Peter Jackson's ability to just montage over a voiceover is just freaking mind-blowing. It's so good.
And speaking of like introductions to like Galadriel and all them, like the introduction of Sam, where he just says like hobbits share an affinity for watching things grow, and it's Sam like petting and smelling a flower. You're like,
that gave me goosebumps. That gave me the way that the way that Ian Holmes says it, and it's Sam, and he's a gardener, and he's so nurturing.
People recognize Sean Astin. He had done Rudy by this point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
and
he was recognized. So it was like your first, like, oh my God, that's a character. Like, that's gonna be. It's like that Leo DiCaprio moment of like, that guy.
Oh, you're right. We got Bilbo's VO. One line I enjoyed: "It is no bad thing to celebrate a simple life."
That is such a good line. That is such a good line.
Which leads us into that's what's going on here. He's celebrating a birthday, wondering where Frodo is because the door is ringing. And so then, we're introduced to Frodo there with the meeting with him and Gandalf.
And can we just take a minute and discuss that Frodo's moment, like meeting Frodo, and how stunning that scene is? It looks like a freaking painting, like just like green trees. He's reading a book. It's like, oh, is he in heaven? Like you learn how well, obviously comfort is, the Hobbit's creed, but it's like you just see how peaceful they are living. And then that moment when he hears him and there's that close up of Elijah Wood, and you see his eyes, the eyes
stunning,
of an angel,
blue eyes, gorgeous.
And then you just
saucers.
see all that glee. Oh, like, is it a thing where like they say your eyes stay the same size from when you're a baby to when you're adult? Is that like a rumor?
You heard it
sounds
on the street.
Right. We'll go with it. I don't know. We're not a health podcast.
Can you imagine baby Elijah Wood's eyes?
Yeah.
Like half
it
of
sounds
his
right,
face.
but I'm imagining it, and it just can't be.
Looking like a Powerpuff Girl.
Yeah, I feel like, I don't know where I heard that, but anyway, I just love that moment. And then you see all that glee when he's like anticipating Gandalf. That moment really hit me yesterday.
You're late.
We can continue.
He is the most British, not British
American person. The most Euro,
you hear the
non-Euro
accent, and
person.
you're like, hang on a minute. I don't think he is, but he might be.
You're late.
You're late,
Mr. Gandalf.
Where have you been?
Yeah, Frodo's like Elijah Wood's like perfect. Like there's good and bad casting decisions throughout. I think most of them are pretty on point, but I think Frodo is like perfect because we're gonna have a lot of close-ups of Frodo crying, a lot of close-ups of Frodo being concerned, and you need those baleful blue eyes to just hold that screen that well.
Matt, I am so interested to hear about the poor casting decisions, because I kind of think this movie was immaculately cast. Like
I do think for the most part it is immaculately cast. Sometimes I question, and maybe this is for
Arwen.
next week or something. No, I think I've come around to Liv Tyler, but I think, but no, I was gonna say Sean Bean as Boromir. I think
what?
I think now I love Sean Bean. I love Sean Bean. This is no slight against Sean Bean, but especially at this point, after all Sean Bean did in the '90s was play villains, that Sean Bean is going to give a bad guy, and I think it does do a small disservice to who Boromir is as a character, because Boromir was supposed to be, at least in the books, a very proud, like he's like a champion, like he is a kingly-esque figure, an admirable figure.
I don't think Boromir's a bad guy in this movie, even in this movie.
I don't think he is either, but I do think that you see it coming more easily than you would had they cast like a person that maybe fit the description of Boromir in the book a little bit more. But I do think that you have to get a lot of storytelling done visually very quickly in these movies, because we got a lot of time. There's not a lot of time to get things done, and so you do kind of also want to know that Boromir is a threat.
I'm gonna make my case for Boromir later.
Me too, but I'm very excited to discuss this.
Yeah, me too. Can we have an episode on that, Mike? Sean Bean episode
versus I'm definitely 100% on board with Sean Bean in this film as Boromir. I have not read the books, so all I'm going off of is the films, and I think he is the best. All right,
I love him. I'm glad he's in there.
So other moments, the jump to Gandalf after they have that little moment where they kind of stare at each other, and Frodo's trying to think, like, is he joking? Is he reprimanding me here right now? And then he's like,
yeah.
That's incredible.
Frodo,
there's so much joyous laughter. Yeah, there's so much wonderful community laughter in Lord of the Rings. It's so wonderful.
Mm-hmm. Another line I enjoyed: half the Shire has been invited, and the rest are turning up anyway.
Yeah,
classic.
They're funny.
Yeah, Bilbo is stressing about this party. Can we talk about that? Like he is on his last, like if something goes wrong, he's going to lose his mind. He does not seem well. He seems like he could just have done away with this. Yeah. But he's been planning his grand goodbye.
For Frodo is just a fun kind of balance between those. So he's out there just like enjoying life.
I think he did it to
what's gonna happen?
I think he did it to get away from Bilbo, because if you have a friend or family member who's in that state of mind, your best bet is just to get away and give them their space. And Frodo's like, I'm not dealing with Bilbo right now.
Sure. And Frodo already suspects something's wrong.
Yeah, he's acting a little weird.
Yeah, something's going on. Yeah. And we also see a moment pretty quickly where, I'm sorry, Matt, what was that?
I was just saying what Frodo says. He's like, Bilbo's been pouring through maps when he thinks I'm not looking, and then we see Bilbo like scourging, and then he thinks he loses the ring, and he's frantically searching for it.
Mm-hmm. Yep. We also have that classic, now classic meme moment. All right, then keep your secrets.
Keep your secrets. They are flirting. I'm just gonna say it a little bit.
There's a
which
lot
I love. I love a little lighthearted flirting between guy friends. I love that.
Sure.
I'm all about
father figure and his son.
I love some playful jocularity. I like it.
There's a lot of hints of The Hobbit throughout this film. Yeah. Like when it's like, if you're referring to the incident with the dragon, I was hardly involved. Like those moments a little later on when Bilbo is talking about the trolls. A lot of fun things. Little, not Easter eggs, but allusions. And Gandalf arrives. They go over that little bridge, and that fun moment when proud feet kind of gives him that scowl. Like,
one hell of a scowl.
He's a disturber of the peace. And then he lets those fireworks loose.
I was gonna say, and then the
And then
fireworks.
then he comes around a little bit. He kind of like laughs, but then his wife like
No,
shows
we
up
don't
and
like
she's
them.
Yeah. The little kids like, please, sir. I want
A couple of those
fireworks.
Peter Jackson's kids.
Peter
Jackson and
Jackson's
Fran
kids,
Walsh.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Talk about,
They're
talk about
I think
nepotism in America.
I think they have a cameo in each film, much like Peter Jackson himself.
Sure.
Oh.
Sure. And we get to Bilbo and Gandalf when they meet. Knock knock, no thank you, which by the way was Sir Ian McKellen's first scene shot
Oh, cool.
in the entire series.
What about very old friends?
Yeah, what about very old friends?
We don't want any more visitors, well-wishers, or distant relations. Yeah.
Oh man.
The way like Bilbo like runs to like hug him too, it's just like you don't even know these characters at all really yet, and you're just like, oh, I'm so glad they found each other.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah. How long has it been since they've seen each other?
I don't
It's
know
been
the
about
exact
50
time
years
frame.
since The Hobbit.
Yeah, which I think is the last time that they really saw each other.
Yeah, might have been. Yeah,
So-
it seems like it because he's like, you haven't aged a day.
Yeah. And because hobbits aren't supposed to live like I think they have like normal human lifespans generally. So
Yeah.
Like
This
Bilbo's old as balls.
Well,
Yeah.
catches up with him. Spoiler alert.
Pretty
Oh, it
quickly.
does. Quickly.
Very
Yeah.
quickly.
You see him in Return of the King, good lord.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like he looked into the ark.
Did you see him in Rivendell?
yeah, it was just a couple months later.
a week later.
This is true.
Like a
This is
lost
true.
lamb. Yeah. Then the Sackville Bagginses that want the house. They'd never forgive me for living this long. Fun line. Oh, and he's not some blockhead brace girdle from Hard Bottle. And then another line that I've used a lot over the years is I feel thin, sort of stretched, like butter scraped over too much bread.
Beautiful.
Great line.
Beautiful line.
Great line.
Matt, what are you gonna say?
I was just gonna say I love him as Gandalf enters, and we get lots of great like size bits where we're showing you the difference between humans and hobbits. Gandalf's hidden his head on chandeliers and whatnot. But I love Bilbo in the background, just like it kind of like the audio kind of like fades out on him, but he is just like, oh, I'll get you this and I'll get you that, and like, oh, did you want any bread and blah blah. Like he's just doing it like in the
and he's
background,
shoving his
just
face.
here,
He's like, you don't mind? I'm gonna
Yeah.
eat.
Okay.
I feel like I remember hearing, maybe it was on the extended edition commentary, but correct me if I'm wrong, that the head bump was unintentional. Like the chandelier was intentional, and then Ian McKellen turning and hitting his head was an accident, and so that oof is really like a real.
Wait, that's his organic reaction.
I think so.
It's incredible. It's like, oh, it's like so wholesome.
And then they were like, "Keep it going. We'll check for
this is
concussion protocol
magic." Yeah.
later."
Yep. They also built 2 Baggins, one full size and one third smaller, and kind of through movie magic made it look all pretty good.
And there was a third one, like the front, the facade at least,
to rule them all
in the actual Shire. Yeah, I mean, just the fact that they had to double everything. I mean, there were so many duplicates of costumes, of set pieces at different scales and sizes, and like
And that
everything
stuff
had
was
to be
all like
made in
handmade.
triplicate. Yeah,
Like
Mhm.
all the
they-
costumes.
yeah.
There's
They
something.
had to hire different tradesmen who didn't even like know how to like do certain things, like the
Forced perspective.
roof thatching and Edoras, and yeah, it's unbelievable amount of like detail and design went into every corner of this movie, which is why it's so one of the reasons why it's so great.
I wonder all the time, and I'm curious to see if this is going to happen with the upcoming Amazon series. Because this movie has a nice amount of CGI in it. It was like when CGI was like getting real good, and it looks great, but they don't. I want to say they don't rely on it when they don't have to, and I'm very interested to see if the Prime series does. If they go into it more.
I feel like it's gonna be chock full of CGI.
Yeah.
Same.
I don't want to like. I don't want that to be the case, but I mean,
Yeah.
how much is it cost? Like
$1 billion at this point.
Yeah, like
Like
it's
the
gonna
way-
be
yeah.
so much. I mean, look at The Hobbit, like
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
you see like when like because it is kind of like your production like making movie is so fucking hard. And so it's like when you can like cut corners and when things can be like easier, it is almost like why wouldn't you do them? And Peter
And just the
Jackson ran with
demand.
that, and
Yeah.
and that's why the Hobbits aren't as great.
Yeah. But this I felt like was
yeah.
such a good balance where, and you can tell there's some stuff that's not CGI that you were like, that would be now. And in that way, it kind of takes you out for a
Exactly.
minute. You're like, oh, this is an old movie because like
Yeah.
you're not used to seeing that anymore. And
it came out at the perfect time where like CGI was good enough to give them what they needed to,
the
but
Balrog.
but still
Yeah.
cost prohibitive enough where you couldn't do everything with CGI and couldn't just get carried away with it. And in order to match the scope of the CGI that you wanted to have, you needed to invest in all of the prosthetic and practical effects that they did. And so
Mhm.
it's just like, but that's not the case anymore because everything's cheaper and easier to do with CGI. So it's like the caliber of like design in this movie could really only happen at that moment in time. It couldn't have happened earlier because CGI wasn't good enough, and you wouldn't have the Balrog and Gollum and these creatures be as amazing as they are. And you can't have it after because then everything looks like The Hobbit.
Well, I think it's excuse me, I think it's a huge testament to Peter Jackson and the fact that Peter Jackson is a craftsperson himself. And in his early films, it's like he made all of his prosthetics, he made his masks, he made his props. I think that's just his perspective. And I feel like a lot of like no one dared to try and make a Lord of the Rings trilogy. And I feel like no one dared to. It's like we don't have the technology to do it. So I think Peter Jackson was like honestly ballsy and confident enough in his skills to be like, no, let's do it. Because I feel like if it wasn't for Peter Jackson, people would have just waited until the technology was adequate to do it, and then it would be full of CGI. So I think that's like all like that leans so heavily on Peter Jackson.
Yeah, and like the Weta team too, the Weta workshop.
Oh, for
team that
sure.
does
Yeah.
the special effects, and now they do every blockbuster out there because they kind of perfected how to do these types of huge big budget movies with previs and all that. But like, yeah, I think that like, and them being like, because Weta had worked with, like you said, Peter Jackson on like Brain Dead and Dead Alive and Bad Taste in the movies beforehand. So they had this kind of like history too, and they were all kind of like friends. And I think that plays like a big factor into like why these movies are so good, because like everybody's just kind of like all in on being with Peter on this ride, and like everybody wants to do the best they can. Like Weta took out a huge loan to invest into the digital technology that came to create this. So like everything was riding on these digital effects being as good as possible, and the practical effects like had to match it too. So it's just like, yeah, I think, and Peter's the right kind of mind for it too. Like Tolkien made this whole universe that he like never even got to finish. Like they say like we don't even know like half of his plans for this Middle Earth universe that Tolkien wanted. And like what Peter Jackson's shown us in his like its subsequent years of like the World War I documentary and like this new Beatles documentary is that like he is, in the best way, a psycho for like the details. Like he is going all in on like the meticulous like resurrection of archival footage and all this kind of stuff, and like that's the kind of mind you need, because that's the same kind of mind I think that Tolkien had for just like that level of detail.
Yeah,
sorry, I kept going.
No. It's all right. And I remember recently he had sold off the workshop and made quite a handsome sum, something in the area of the billions. So good on him.
Whoa.
Yeah. Gotta appreciate that.
So Gandalf and Bilbo smoking some old Toby, the finest weed in South Farthing, blowing shapes, pretty cool. And then it's party time.
Yeah.
How you feeling about this celebration?
It is
awesome.
It's an affair to remember. I mean, it's paying off. I feel like the only person who looks like he's not enjoying himself is Bilbo, who's going through and having heartfelt goodbyes and avoiding people he doesn't want to talk to. But I mean, it's just a lovely time. I'd love to be there. I would have shown up.
Mm-hmm.
I think Bilbo's having an okay time. Like, I think he wants to avoid those sacrifices, but he's also like a little drunk, a little stoned.
He's like crying to
He's having
Frodo
a
about.
fine time.
We find out that Frodo's parents have died, and he has adopted him,
Yeah.
but not out of the goodness of his heart.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a moment. And Frodo's like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
He's a little all over
man.
the place. Yeah. Bilbo's he's a little scattered. It seems like he's got a lot weighing on him.
Yeah.
He's saying
And this
his
is really
goodbyes.
like the only real, correct me if I'm wrong, the only real interaction we get between Bilbo and Frodo is
Bob.
this like scene, and like you do where Bilbo's a little drunk and he's like telling Frodo like you're like kind of the only hope for like the Baggins family, like you're the best of them, and it is this nice like heartfelt but also kind of like funny scene that gives us just enough of their relationship, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we do get more later, but up until this point, until Bilbo leaves, this is kind of like all we get between them.
Yeah. You get a little Merry and Pippin stealing the big firework.
Great.
Oh, no, the big one.
The big one.
Get that little apple bite.
You like, well, it's immediately
away.
like, oh, these two characters are going to be very consistent comedic relief.
Yeah.
Mm. Yeah. You have Bilbo interacting with one of those aforementioned brace girdles, who apparently has a lot of children. He's just like, well, okay, you've been busy. All right, let's everybody calm down. He goes hiding from the Sackvilles once again. They want the house. And yeah, we mentioned Bilbo taking in Frodo. The dragon. Oh, there hasn't been a dragon around these parts in 1,000 years. I wonder if Gandalf had planned on using that one.
Why bring it in your whole fireworks arsenal if you're not gonna use it? Is he just carrying them around with him?
Well, I'm sure that if he was going to use it, it was going to be executed in a way that wouldn't have put people in danger. Maybe, yeah. So maybe it would have been like on a little hill or something.
Lights a tent on fire.
Yeah. And Merry and Pippin both lost fingers. That's not true. Not true.
I was like,
is that in the book?
I do love how burnt and like what Merry and Pippin look like after.
Cartoonish.
Like, it's that cartoonish hair frizz and like the blackened faces.
And when they're doing the dishes, they like, I love that they get like in trouble.
Yeah.
And Gandalf gives them a little task. I'm realizing
by
that.
The ears.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Like Brandy Buck and Peregrine Took.
I might have known.
Go
ahead.
Gandalf knows them. He's met them before.
Seems like. Or at least their families,
he hasn't
probably
been in the Shire for 50 years.
Mm.
Well, Frodo's about that old.
50?
50? Yeah, Ian is like 40s, 50s.
Yeah, I think so. All right,
Elijah Wood's like 18 years old.
They must grow a little bit older. They
must
not age like humans.
The age of hobbits and correct them in our coming episode.
I was reading last night that between the time Frodo gets the ring from Bilbo and the time Gandalf confirms it's the One Ring and comes back to see him, it's 17 years. Yeah. Frodo has the ring for 17 years before he goes on this journey. Mm. So are you telling me Frodo's in his like mid-60s when he's embarking?
Could be.
Seems like.
I don't see a problem.
Seems like,
What's confusing, Stacey? Stacey, what is confusing?
Okay. If you guys, you know what, I trust you. If you guys are okay with it, I'm okay with it too.
Yeah, you got Gandalf, he's like 4,000 years old or whatever. You got
Aragorn's in his
like
80s.
100,
yeah.
Sauron's still floating around 5,000 years or so. I'm going to play this quick clip, one of my favorite moments from the period that we are covering. And it is the beginning of Bilbo's speech.
My dear Bagginses and Boffins, Tooks and Brandybunks, Rods, Jobs, Windflowers, Bulgers, Grey Scarlows, and Proudfoots. Today is my 111th birthday.
That's it.
Oh, you left out the good line of like, what is it like? I don't like left or
I-
you know,
yeah.
I like
I don't
less
know.
than half of you,
You
more
half as well as you deserve,
or something
yeah.
like that. Yeah.
And they're all just like, huh?
Yeah. And Gandalf has that knowing smirk on his face, like, I got
Like,
it.
I get it.
I got it. I got it.
Good
Yeah.
one, Bilbo.
Yeah. And the speech, he starts off pretty strong. It seems like he
Yeah.
had a script, he
Yeah.
had everything planned out, and then he's like, oh,
And then it gets
fuck
weird.
it.
Then all of a
Yeah.
It
sudden
gets
he just
weird
goes,
real
Yeah.
quick.
I'm
I gotta go.
going now. And like
He had
the
that
camera,
crowd
like, the
around his
audio.
finger.
Yeah. The palm of his hand.
Yeah.
That crowd was hot. And then he
Yeah,
was
and then
suddenly just like, I have things to do. And then like got weird and left.
Yeah.
On.
Weird.
I just imagine him practicing in his bathroom mirror and he nails all the names and he's like, I got this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the hard part.
Just forgot the rest of his speech.
He
is
makes
all.
the joke about less than hat and he practices that little tongue twister and then he's like,
Yeah.
this is gonna be good.
Yeah. And then they don't react to it. And he was expecting a big laugh. That's probably what it was. He was expecting a big laugh.
Yeah.
It's going to really get them. And then they
You're
don't
right.
laugh and it just throws his rhythm
And then
completely off.
he blacked out, yeah, and forgot the rest of his speech, freaked out and left.
Yeah. You know, talk about needing an improv class. Bilbo, come on.
Yeah, come on, Bilbo.
Yeah. You got to recover. Got to bounce back,
What a
buddy.
note to
Bounce
go
back,
out on
Bilbo.
though. Like that's the last anybody's gonna see him in the Shire. Like he
Yeah.
just disappears on stage and
Yeah.
pieces out afterward.
Yeah.
Is
The
that not
detective
the
showing
theme
up on the
of
scene and like
The Leftovers?
what did he do? Oh, leftovers. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
in that show, it's like it traumatizes the world. So are we to believe that like the Shire will forever be traumatized because they won't know what happened to Bilbo?
There was like
Probably.
he was talking to a lot of children at that event, and they see that, and it's like close to their bedtime. They got to get home and go to sleep.
Mhm.
For the rest of their life, their parents are gonna have to try and explain.
Yeah, they're gonna.
Where
I don't want to
Bilbo
go to
went?
that person's birthday party because I like them, and I don't want them to disappear after. Like that's like
Right.
going to be something they carry with them.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Bilbo.
Wow.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
the effect of him disappearing too is great because it doesn't it feels like kind of spooky, like the sound design of like the and, like the way he like vanishes. It's like it
Good
doesn't
whoosh.
feel like I Dream of Jeannie or something like that, where it's just like bloop, and then like we're like in there, you know. Is that a
Everybody,
topical reference?
I have to go now.
I don't know what that sounds.
Everybody heard that, right? Everybody heard that? He left and I heard a
Frodo's like hiding behind the tree with like a xylophone. Like,
Did I do it?
Bong, bing. Yeah, the NBC sound, Frodo. Yeah. So he goes immediately home. Like he does this. This is what makes me think like he had more planned to that speech.
Yeah.
He just goes home. He runs back home as if like no one else is gonna think to look there.
I think that every
and-
time I watch this movie, I'm like, how does he have time to? First of all, why isn't he packed? And second of all, like, how does he have time to pack? That's where I'd go if Bilbo disappeared. And then, you know,
Yeah.
the Sackville Bagginses are probably on their way.
Mm-hmm.
Camping
Got
out
someone
there.
stationed outside. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe he was trying to do all that, and finally he was just like, you know what, fuck this. I'm putting up a sign, no admittance, and then knocks on the door. We don't want any of this, any of that. Get the fuck out of here. I got shit to do. So maybe it was just everybody kept interrupting him, and
Yeah.
maybe interrupted his speech writing, interrupted his packing. So he's like, fuck it, I'm out of here. I got to go home and pack.
He is real like
Gandalf was right
satisfied
on
with
it.
himself though too. Like
Yeah.
he gets home, he flips
Yeah.
that ring, he's like, ha, nailed it. Time to get
Yeah.
my backpack and get
Yeah.
on my way.
And even
Yeah.
Gandalf comes and he's like, are you kidding me? And Bilbo's like, oh, they loved it. We're good.
Fucked up the speech,
Don't
but
even.
landed the exit.
Yeah.
Yeah, left them
Yeah,
wanting
he's
more.
so proud of himself. You're right, man.
Mhm.
The
Showmanship.
first, yeah, that was the first moment where Gandalf is like, what the hell's going on? And his like spidey senses go on alert, and he's like, Bilbo's up to something.
Yeah.
Which
Then he
takes
starts
us
talking
to-
about like there are many magic rings in the world. Yeah, I don't know.
And none of them should be used
like that.
lightly.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It was just a bit of fun.
This whole
I'm glad you guys know the
conversation-
lines so well because I struggle with them and I just kick them off to you.
The,
It was like
this whole,
there's rings and stuff.
the conversation
And
between
shit.
Gandalf and Bilbo in this scene reminds me so much of parenting my 3-year-old, where I'm just trying to patiently explain to him why something is not a good idea, and he's just not listening. and then I have to use my stern voice, and he gets so upset. Like it's just, it's like me being Gandalf.
Wesley Lyons.
I'll be like, yeah, I'm not going to con you. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry, Mama. But it's like he won't listen until I use my big, strong voice.
I got that one too here. Hang on.
Oh, great.
You want it for yourself.
Bilbo Baggins! Do not take me for some conjurer of cheap tricks. I am not trying to rob you.
Trying to help you, yeah. That's.
He really takes his time.
Yeah.
Wow, he really takes his time.
He grows, the wood creaks. That's parenting.
And his
guys. You
voice
have to sometimes use
continuously goes down.
your strong voice, and then you end it with a moment of love.
It's like,
That's
Bilbo
so that
Baggins, I am not trying to rob you.
That's some of that Shakespearean training in those
Mhm.
vocals.
Oh yeah.
Reach
So
the people
great.
And
the
then
back.
Bilbo gets a little whimpery.
He does. Runs up
He
and
knows
hugs
he's
him.
in trouble.
Well, hobbits are like, they're sensitive, right? Isn't that like hobbits are emotional?
Yeah,
Mhm.
good.
Oh, I just thought of Samwise and literally gave myself shivers or
And that
chills.
moment where he like puts his fists up. You what did
You
you
wanna
yourself?
foil? He was gonna do that Irish fight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why are you on
Fucking
a-
your name
Pugilist,
over here. Yeah, put up your dukes, Gandalf.
Yeah, that was so cute.
Step outside, oh wizard. Yeah.
And it's a great like early tease of Gandalf's power too, of just like he makes this whole room go like dark and like feel terrifying. You're like, oh my god, Gandalf's not to be trifled with.
It's
Mhm.
also like I think he knew Bilbo. Maybe I don't know how much he knows because at this point he doesn't realize it's the One Ring, but there's no way he doesn't have an inkling. And it's like Bilbo is definitely getting caught up in that, like, it's mine, my own, my this. And once that happens, you really got to snap him out of it. Like,
Mhm.
you have to. So I think he had to do something a little dramatic. I will say, and this is going to be a thread the more we talk about this with me, in case anyone needs convincing, Gandalf is a huge drama queen. Like, Gandalf lives for the drama. And this is just
Sure.
like also the first inkling of that, too.
Mhm.
Mm.
Yeah, definitely in it
Yeah.
for the drum.
Yeah.
Well,
loves it.
it is high stakes, and Gandalf is kind of one of the few people that gets it. So, like
Yeah, but then like, okay, we'll parallel this moment with when he comes back. I don't mean to skip too far ahead. We can fill in the gap, but when he comes back in with Frodo and he grabs the envelope from him and just
Yeah.
tosses it into the fire, you could have just been like,
It's great.
I'm gonna test a theory. Hang on one sec. And Frodo's like, what the hell are you doing? Like,
Yeah.
Gandalf just loves that, and he turns his back on him. He's like, it's a language of order, and you're like, come on, just tell him what's going on.
here.
He's
He just
definitely got a
loves
flair
theatrics.
for the dramatics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think I agree with Matt. I think it's like this is probably the most severe thing to come across his desk in a long time if it were
Yeah.
if it were to be true. Right. So I
Mhm.
think
Gandalf's
there was
got
just
lot
such
of
a
shit on his desk, too. A lot of
Yeah. Yeah.
just
And
stacks
his-
and stacks.
It's just
In his cute
Um,
little
401ks.
Yeah. So I think he was probably just like a little frantic, right? And
Mhm.
this is like a thread for me of one of the reasons why I think Gandalf is just such a brilliant character, even for a character so as powerful as a wizard, is that he has emotions and is flawed and doesn't always go about things in probably the most reasonable way. And I just think that makes him just more dimensional.
Something
Yeah.
I learned this week that kind of helps me understand Gandalf a little bit better too is that he is this basically a god like being sent
Mhm.
down to Middle Earth, and basically he's been told like you can't use your powers to control these people. You can only use you can only persuade and help them. Like
Mhm.
he is this dude who can do miracles and magic and could command these people and force them into doing stuff, but he has to humble himself before these different races and of people and be like, come on, please, like this is the most important thing in the world. Just listen to me. I'm trying to help you.
It's
Yeah.
why he can't take the ring. He's what is
Yeah.
he? One of the Maiar? Is that what it is, Matt?
I don't know the words.
It's
That
something
sounds
like
right.
that. Yeah. Yeah, it's why he can't
Mithrandir.
take the ring. It's why he can't take the ring, and it's why he
Mhm.
can defeat the Balrog, right? That destroyed literally the race of dwarves. I mean,
Mhm.
It's a similar reason of why Galadriel shouldn't have the ring. Is just like their power. We all know that you can't wield the ring of power, and so in turn, their power would be used for evil, and it would be catastrophic for Middle Earth. And Gandalf is wise enough to know that, and it's just like that's so beautiful because it just reminds you of like, oh, hobbits were the only creature who could have done this. I think that's something that like we come back to because I hate using the word pure, but it's like they are just.
You can say it.
I know, but it just
they're
it feels
so pure.
It feels weird, but they're just not
They have an innocence to them for sure.
There's an innocence, there's like this, like their strength comes from the fact that they are like simple, pure folk. I just think that's like so beautiful.
Nothing wrong with pure.
I think they do get, I don't want to get too far into this though. I do think they get infantilized a lot in these. I don't know if it happens as much in the books, but definitely in the movies. Yeah. Especially with Boromir constantly calling them like the little ones. And you're like, I don't know, man. Like,
they get picked up a lot. They get treated like children.
Yeah.
Patted on the head.
Aragorn, like they're just children to your eyes when he was in Two Towers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're 60-year-old men. Okay. Like.
They are adults. Don't pick me up. Excuse me.
The way that ring falls so heavy after he a couple times is like, I'll leave the ring. Doesn't leave. Oh, it's in my pocket. I'll leave the ring. Her Bilbo. If I got something.
The ring is still in your pocket. Yeah.
Yeah.
Those were magnets. They used magnets to make the weight, I think, there and on Elrond's table. So that the ring looked like it had a weight to it.
Yeah. And then the first big scare of the trilogy with the eye, when the eye flashes,
touches the ring.
Yeah, Gandalf tries to pick it up. That made me jump. I had to mute it yesterday. I was too scared.
Yeah, and then he just left it there. Like he tried to pick it up and was like, don't want to touch it. He could have like gotten a piece of paper, piece of parchment, gotten that off, just left it right by the front door,
like scooped it up with the paper.
There's some questionable,
like you do with a spider.
Handling.
You do a little cup and a little piece of paper, and
you
And like later, later's like Gandalf's like, is it to Frodo? He's like, is it safe? And Frodo just like touches his like little vest pocket. I'm like, is that the safest place for that? I don't know.
There is not a button on that pocket. No. That pocket, you're gonna do one cartwheel, Frodo, and it's getting loose.
Yeah,
minutes later they tumble down a cliff. So I don't know how that ring didn't fall out.
I mean, even when Gandalf's like, get down, and he finds that Sam's outside his window, it's like, oh, the ring 100% would have gone flying out that little ring pocket.
Yeah. Unless the hobbits are using some technology in their vests. But yeah.
There's a little ring hook.
Yeah.
Technology.
That's the only technology that's advanced in the past 3,000 years. Vest pocket technology.
The hobbits are sewing like crazy for 3,000 years.
So Gandalf goes off to the library, tells him
for 17 years.
Keep it safe.
17 years.
And we were talking about this earlier. Like the library's a mess. So I'd love
no one's keeping up with that.
Where the librarian is there is like, okay, over here is you'll find these things over here. I have a system, Gandalf. Like,
I imagine that person was just like, this is the room of paper, and then just left. Like,
we don't know whose room this is.
Yeah. I don't know what's in here, but it's a bunch of old documents. Feel free to look through it. Like, I don't think that person.
Here's a candle. Be careful.
Yeah.
It's dry down here.
This shouldn't take you more than a week. 17 years later. Gandalf's just smoking. He's also smoking, and this room is not ventilated, and he's near a lot of paper. It seems like a bad
but
idea.
I love the way the smoke is like wafting as he like flips through paper, and it's dust and it's smoke, and then he's drinking a drink. What do you think he was drinking? I think it was tea.
Oh, I think
some tea.
Booze.
You think it was alcohol?
Yeah.
Ale?
I would. If I'm going through old documents, you got to get a buzz.
If I drink too much, I can't read. Like I just don't.
Well, it took him 17 years, Kelly.
The guy needed a drink
there.
True. Oh, all right. Mike doing a Gandalf. Mike just took a drink of water.
Of some tea. So the other thing I liked in this collection of scenes where we see Minas Tirith for the first time.
Yeah.
And then contrasting that is Mordor all the way in the back, because there's also there's a lot of activity. There's shit going on. And he finds accounts of the Ring of Power 34 of the Second Age, a secret now that only fire can tell. Yeah. And then the riders are out there now. So they're released. Yeah. Show up at that house.
So scary.
That
Mordor
part as
is
a child.
Yeah. Mordor is waking up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Shire.
A secret now that only
So
fire could tell.
scary.
Why? I just love the way people wrote back in those days. Because now it'd be like, there was words. And if you put it in fire, it would light up.
Yeah.
And Gandalf, you know what I mean? Like, who writes that?
You'll see it. The riders come up on the house with the dog, and that dude immediately sells them out. Immediately.
Wouldn't you?
They're right over there in Hobbiton.
Yeah.
They know where
would.
they're going. Send them the opposite direction. Obviously.
And
like,
have him
you-
come back and be like,
Mike, you've never in your life encountered danger like this, like a threat. Like hobbits don't
know?
even know what that. I'm saying
You
if
know
you
I
were a
haven't.
hobbit, Mike, I'm saying if you were a hobbit,
yeah.
you wouldn't even know how to interact with something that felt
Sure.
like such a big threat.
Kelly, it's pretty presumptuous to assume that Mike hasn't met a Nazgul by now.
Thank you.
You're right. You're right.
He's
I'm sorry.
in
I don't think you would
Indianapolis?
assume your experience. You're right. You're right.
I would 100% have done what that guy did, because what else they tortured Gollum for a long, long time.
I don't know how long they tortured him.
It was
Yeah.
years, I think.
It also, I think, I don't know. I think what we've seen of the hobbits thus far is they do seem to be kind of a hard-nosed and stubborn people. So I think it does say something, it does speak to the threat of the Black Riders.
Sure.
When that dude so quickly caves in.
They're not around here.
No
They're
hobbits
Hobbiton.
here. They're done in Hobbiton.
It goes to the scene in the next, that we'll talk about next week with the bugs. Even the bugs could sense the ring wraith, when they're hiding in the tree root. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everyone can
Yeah.
sense their
Iconic moment.
otherworldly. It's,
they're giving something off.
yeah.
A dark
Yeah.
presence.
And the way they talk too, so
Hissy.
scary.
Hissy.
So scary. And later on in Bree, when they're stabbing and you get that eagle shriek, but until then,
That
just the
Howard Dean
whispers
scream.
are so scary.
And I also love how they have to stop to ask for directions. You know what I mean?
They don't have GPS.
They don't even know where Hobbiton is. They're just now becoming aware of Hobbiton.
I'd like to think that they were maybe lost for a minute.
Yeah.
And they were like, you know what?
Yeah.
Fuck
We have
it.
seen this
You
tree
need to
10
ask someone.
times.
You need
Yeah.
to ask someone.
I don't want to ask. Just there's a door right there.
Oh,
That's the gas station a
awkward.
mile back. I gotta go back. I also want some tea.
These people are weird and small.
And we should mention, I don't know if we did, but they only got there to the Shire because of Gollum. Gollum was
Yeah.
being tortured by
Yeah.
the orcs. And
How do we think he was being
all we hear him
tortured?
say.
Probably
Oh my
tickled.
God.
He was tickled,
Yeah,
stretched.
it looked like he was being stretched, and
Stretched.
drawn and
Yeah.
quartered, kind of.
Burned, stabbed. I think he was just being physically
Definitely
assaulted.
whipped, because in Two Towers, he has just a bunch of lacerations on his back.
There's so much
Um,
steam. I feel like maybe he was being burned.
Boiled. Oh,
Yeah.
cooked.
And the voice of the ring wraith, the Shire Baggins,
Oh, that's
was
good,
Andy
Mike.
Serkis.
Of course it was.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, he just
God,
fills
I love
anything
Andy Serkis.
that's needed.
Yeah.
Give that guy an Oscar, am I right?
You're right.
We go to the pub, and we have that. Is that where we have the song
Yes.
that they're singing, which I have a little bit of here? I think I do. You don't?
Mike just start singing.
No.
And a one. And a
Many miles to go. At the pouring rain.
Someone go beer and say
Take this down. I don't know what he's saying.
To raucous applause. Does
Yeah.
Pippin not? Is that not the last line? Did he just improv that and everyone stopped singing? Like I wonder
like-
this every time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because even
maybe
he's like,
it's-
"Look what I did."
fill it in. Fill it in. It's a song that doesn't have a last line, and you make it up each time you sing it.
Oh, I like
Um,
that.
Flip song.
All right. Yeah. So they're at the pub, and there's this group that's like basically talking shit on Bilbo.
Yeah.
And just kind of discussing their strange people visiting the lands. And Bilbo's a fucking idiot. And then Frodo
Correct,
comes
isn't
by. Yeah. Oh, and happy to be. Proud of it. None
Yes,
of our
Gaffer.
concern what goes on beyond our borders. So these people are basically isolationists, which always works out well. Not so much. And then they leave, and
we get a
see the moment
Rosie.
their moment with Rosie and Sam. Kind of, you see that he likes her, and then they're leaving. And the other dude is like flirting with her, and Frodo's like, "Don't worry, she knows an idiot when she sees one." He's like, "Oh, does she?"
Yeah, I love that because you feel the fear of like, I'm an idiot. She's gonna see me right.
Oh, geez. Yeah. And then we get to Gandalf returning, which we briefly touched on, and he grabs him. He comes in the
Yeah.
house and he just fucking
Is
grabs
it
him.
secret? Is it
Yeah.
He was definitely
Uh,
just like hiding in the shadows
Yeah.
of the home, right?
He
Mhm.
could have just done this so much more subtly.
Could have been
and
sitting by the
instead
fire,
he
Yeah.
chose
smoking.
Yeah.
drama
Oh.
in this moment.
Oh, you're home. I've been waiting for you.
Oh,
I
hey,
got urgent
Frodo, it's
business.
me. Don't be alarmed. May I see the ring, please? I mean, same amount of
You
time.
know, I think we need the movies like we gotta start moving. We gotta start getting out of here. And it's just like, let's go. Gandalf, be hurried for whatever reason. You've been gone for months, but act
Mhm.
like you need to know right now.
Now.
Yeah. Yeah.
You just ran here.
Yeah. Frodo's
does-
like
does
a little
Gandalf-
tipsy.
Does Gandalf come out hands first? Like, do we
Mhm.
see his hands first? I think that's I like these moments of like, I mean, it's not really horror, but it kind of has like a horror vibe. And that to me is just like, oh, Peter Jackson is just like a giant horror movie nerd. So it's fun to see those like little glimpses. I feel like anything hands first is horror to me.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's terrifying.
yeah,
Mhm.
no one should go hands first if
No.
you're trying to like greet someone.
Sauron proved
That explains
that.
why
you don't
every time
go.
I try to give you a hug, Kelly, you just recoil in fear.
Hide
Yeah.
behind the
Probably shouldn't
nearest
go in
chair.
for a hug.
Gotta go in head first.
Yeah, there's a lot of hands moments in this. He's like the Quentin Tarantino of hands. Like it's like Sauron going finger first at Isildur.
Jackson's got a real hand fetish.
Gollum
and,
being
it's
tortured.
going
All you see is
unchecked,
his
yeah.
creepy little hands. Gollum
Mhm.
fingers.
Yeah.
Sauron over the crystal
The-
ball. You know what I'm
yeah.
talking about?
Yeah.
Mhm.
The
And,
Palantir.
Palantir. Yeah.
I'm gonna call
So
it
he
a crystal
grabs
ball.
the envelope with the ring, and throws it into the fire and waits for it. Does it say anything? And he's like, no, doesn't have anything. Okay, because I really thought there. Oh, wait a second.
Middle Earth is fine.
Yeah. Oh, wait a second, Gandalf. It looks
He
like there's
looks
something
re-
here.
He looks relieved, whereas I would have been like, I just wasted like months of my time.
Or 17 years in
But
Gandalf.
I was really off, and
Yeah.
I wasted a lot of time in libraries traveling across the world.
Frodo's like, wait a minute, there is something. He peels off like a made in China sticker inside the ring.
What is
It's-
this made in
yeah.
China?
To my love. Yeah, inscribed. So this must have changed hands multiple times. Yeah, and there's also that moment where he pulls it out of the fire and immediately puts it in Frodo's hands. Like, don't worry, it's quite cool. Like, Frodo has no reason to believe that, but it's also a neat thing about that ring. It's in the fire, and it's burning, but it's that hard to have any impact on.
Normal
ring
fire will
itself.
do nothing to it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It has
Why
to
don't you
be.
make
It was
warm.
forged in fire. It was
It
forged.
has to be
in-
the
yeah.
Doom lava.
yeah,
It's got to be. If it's not Doom lava, like good luck.
It's got to be the
yeah.
Doom
Why
lava.
even bother? Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, and yeah, wait. And it's revealing the language of Mordor, which I will not utter
Not-
here.
I love that moment.
Yeah.
I mean, also, he's like, it says something, a language, some sort of Elvish. I can't read it. There are few who can.
Yeah, but I can.
There are few who can. Thankfully, I am here, and we can continue our story and journey.
There's a lot of
one ring to rule
ego
them all.
in Middle Earth.
Yeah, you
A lot of
gotta
ego
think. If you
going
gotta think
around.
for a moment, Frodo's like, he has no fucking idea what this says. Like, he's just, I'm not gonna say it here, but I know what it says.
It's
Okay.
also like
Just
Frodo
trust me.
has been drinking and smoking
Yeah.
a ton of weed for all night, and now he's dealing with this really weird energy. Like I
Yeah.
can't imagine like
Also,
how
yeah,
Sparks in
that's
his
a
vibe.
that's a really good point, Kelly. And add that to the fact that Sam was also drinking all night and then came to Frodo's door late. Are we not going
Aw.
to talk about that?
Yeah.
a little gay fan fiction.
I think
maybe?
everyone in this movie might be gay, and I like
Absolutely.
that for Middle Earth.
Yeah.
But I just feel like we should talk about it.
So
having
it's-
a great night out and then just boom, buzzkill immediately.
Yeah.
You're dealing with the end of the world.
I do think it's interesting because obviously there is so much intimacy in this movie, and for the most part it's platonic intimacy. It's not like there's romance, but it's like less than a quarter of the film. But I never get the feeling that it is romantic, and I think that's really, really wonderful. Like, oh, Sam and Frodo really do just become such close friends. And I don't know, I'm not like a huge Harry Potter fan, so I apologize, but I hate all this like, oh, Harry Potter's about friendship. I'm like, the Lord of the Rings is about friendship.
Yeah.
Are you kidding? Like but yeah, I just to touch on that
It's
a bit.
like
Do you get gay vibes?
Totally agree.
I
Stacey?
don't know. I don't get sexual vibes, but I do get romantic vibes, and I don't think that that's necessarily like homoerotic in any way, but I feel like it's more than just like male friendship and camaraderie. I feel like there's like a deep like love and affection for each other.
And maybe that's like a Hobbit thing.
And I kind of love that. Yeah. And I feel
Yeah.
like now men are so, and not just men, but like people are so afraid of seeming gay when they aren't. But it's like,
Sure.
just love people, you know?
Right.
Be vulnerable, be
Mhm,
intimate,
mhm.
you know?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
That, I
And-
mean, yeah.
I love this moment with Gandalf and Frodo kind of explaining to Frodo what this thing is, the power, and again, Ian McKellen's delivery, the language. Like I love this line of like his thought is bent on it. Like
Mhm.
that
Yeah,
line to me
yeah.
is like, whoa. And just the way that Ian McKellen delivers it is really intense. And then there's that little whisper from the ring.
Yeah. Right
Um,
after he was destroyed. He was
Sauron was
destroyed. Like
destroyed.
right Gandalf?
Sauron was like, think again.
Present. Player 2 has entered the room. Yeah. Yeah. His
Oh.
spirit lived on. Barad-dûr, his fortress in Barad-dûr has been rebuilt. Yeah. And there's also that line where he's like, no one knows it's here though, so we're good, right?
Oh my God.
Right, I'm
what
just
a-
gonna go back to drinking.
What
Yeah.
a reveal, right? Where he's like, do they Gandalf? And Gandalf is like, gotta drop this bomb now.
Ooh, about
You gotta
that.
go. You gotta. I'm super sorry, but you have to leave, and you have to leave now.
And Frodo's
Yeah.
like
And-
packing like a small loaf of bread, and like we all know that this is gonna be a
couple
trilogy. Like we
apples.
all know that this is like a few
But-
movies long. We're like, oh no.
But before he
Frodo.
even starts packing too, and Stacey, to your point, like just been out partying, confronted with the end of the world, and then here we get like the first, like I feel like real glimpse of the heroism of Frodo too, of like because his response is, "What must I do?" And like that, I'm just like, dude, he is game. He is like already like, all right, what do I have to do? He's ready to
Yeah.
own the responsibility of saving the
Well,
world.
he's ready to own this responsibility to his knowledge, which is very little. I'm sure if you were
Sure.
like, oh hey,
yeah,
do
he has
this
no
thing,
idea what he's
but your
he's
life
getting
will never
into.
be the same. You will be forever damaged, and you're essentially going to be traumatized for life. So I think it's a matter of like it's, and even I think to Gandalf, it's unclear what needs to be done, right? We don't learn that until the Council of Elrond. But
Yeah.
to your point, it is a huge act of courage, even through that all of that uncertainty, to just be like, okay, like
Yeah.
I'll
And
do it.
It kind of goes back to what you were saying, like only a hobbit could do this, because even he's like, head for the village of the Bree, to the prancing
Bree,
pony,
yeah.
and Frodo
And he's
goes,
like, Bree.
he goes, it'll be safe there. Like he thinks that's all he's got to do.
Exactly.
Like and
Yeah.
that's the end of his trip. And it's like
Well,
this
just
this
keep him there for a little bit.
naivete, and yeah, and it's
Can we talk about Frodo's pack job though? So Gandalf definitely was folding his clothes and he would just take it and shove it in his backpack. I always thought that was like such a brilliant moment of comedy. Just like, oh,
these men are all bachelors.
Awesome.
Like,
Yeah.
Bree says Bree and like unravels the shirt and just shoves it in his little knapsack.
I also enjoyed just that. The "Don't tempt me, Frodo," where he's like, "Oh, you take it, get it, okay, take it."
I would try to use the ring for good, but through me, it would
yield a power.
I want to see the spinoff where Gandalf takes the ring because I'm dying to see that.
Cut to the world on fire.
After that line,
it's like the Curb Your Enthusiasm music as Gandalf, like the world is burning, and Gandalf is like in Mount Doom,
drinking tea like that. That one meme, "World's on fire."
Yeah.
And after that, "Don't tempt me, Frodo." He's like, Frodo says, "It cannot stay here," and Gandalf's like, "Nah,
no,
it can't."
Do you ever think about his? I think about this with like a lot of the actors, but especially Ian McKellen. So many strange choices, right? Like even as we quote his lines, they're just so strange. And I'm like, I would just want to pick his brain of like, how did you go about making these choices? God, so good.
Yeah. Wild line reads that somehow work because he's just such a good actor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do I have to do? Head to Bree, wait at the end of the prancing pony, and says he's going to see the head of his order. He'll know what to do.
Yeah.
Like, oh,
you are.
He's so
wrong.
sure of it too. Like he lays the assuredness on so thick. He's like, he's got it. Oh, we'll take care of this. Don't worry.
You go to Bree. I'm going to go to Saruman. This whole thing's going to take 4 days. All right, we're going to figure this out.
Tops.
And not before we get Samwise from snooping.
I ain't dropping a weave, sir.
Honest.
Yeah. But before we get the before that happens though, another moment that is so good is when Gandalf says, hobbits, you can learn all about their ways in a matter of months, and after 100 years they'll still surprise you. And that's also when the Shire theme kicks in a little bit, and it's that da 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 da, and I'm just like, oh God, let's go. But then also I'm so scared to leave the Shire. But it's all
okay, let's go. I think the music is, especially whenever you hear that motif, it is such a tension breaker. And I think that's a pattern we see in like the movies of like how much the score allows the audience to like breathe at like these moments, amongst like many other things. Cause again, the score is freaking phenomenal. But
totally agree.
That's such a nice
Kelly.
moment.
Yeah, it is. Cause you're just like so stressed. The world is ending. And then you're like, you know what? I think it's going to be all right.
Even like, oh, sorry.
Yeah, you just got to get to Bree.
I'm cutting far into the future, but even when they're like, when Sam and Frodo are like on Mount Doom, fucking like things
you're cutting far into the future.
Cutting to the end.
but just again, to just make a point that I've already made, and then that the Shire motif comes back, and even then you're like, oh right, remember where we came from and how lovely that was. And he just they do such a good job at creating that place that we can go back to when things are at their most hopeless.
Yeah, it's like a muscle memory kind of thing, but for emotions.
Every time that motif comes up, I'm like, oh, my heart.
That's the also comes up like it swells when Sam is like, if I take one more step, it'll be the farthest from home
I've ever been.
Like, and you just sit there and you're like, here we go. Movie's about to start. Here we go.
Pretty much. It's like, it's a matter of like, oh, things are just from here going to get harder.
Yeah.
So best of luck.
Yeah.
Yeah. I heard something about a ring and a Dark Lord and something about the end of the world, but Other than that, I
Oh,
didn't hear a
so
thing.
funny.
Didn't hear a
Don't
thing.
turn me into anything unnatural.
Was he talking
Yeah.
about like his penis?
No, I think he was like wizards can turn people
Wait,
into like
what?
frogs.
Wait,
It seemed
hold
like he
on.
was.
What do you-
It just okay, Matt.
What?
So I'm not
He's
gonna
gonna
lie. I'm
turn
not
Sam into Gandalf's penis.
that would be amazing. If I were a wizard and I could turn people into my penis, I would. No, it's something that I just
Don't
thought of.
tempt me, Frodo.
I will turn you into my penis. Well, no, because it's honestly something that I just thought of just now. I never thought of this until this moment. But just the way he says unnatural, it seems like maybe he's concerned about his genitals.
I think that
I
says
think
more
it's-
about you than it
Yeah,
does.
I don't
Yeah.
think.
Oh,
that's
there's no
what it
doubt.
is.
There's no doubt this question says more about me than Samwise Gamgee. But no one else feels that way. Okay, cool. We
I'm
can move
sure
on.
there's like wizard stories out there of like
Yeah.
wizards turning people into frogs or
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
trees
dicks.
or something.
Yeah.
Or just-
Reproductive organs. Yeah.
I'm like the 13-year-old dweeb
Yeah.
of Middle Earth.
Yeah.
So he
All
puts
right.
Sam on ring duty, doesn't turn him into anything unnatural or reproductive, and warns him not to put it on or they will know. Don't put the ring on because it's basically like, hey, everybody, here I am, come get me. So
Doesn't really work like that though. I mean, it's not like a honing beacon, right? Like it's just that.
no, the
you-
when he puts the ring on, the
Kinda
eye is like,
Yeah, but
There
it
you are.
can't tell exactly where he is.
I think
It
I mean
just
that's how he
left
got
it on-
stabbed on Weathertop, right? Well, I guess
Right.
he felt the
He was
No,
like
because
hitting
when
in a
you
cell
put the
tower.
ring on, he enters into like the realm of that the wraiths live their lives in. So they can't see him when he doesn't have the ring on. They can smell. I don't even know if they can smell him, but they can like look around. But when he puts it on, they can see him physically, and that's how they were able to stab him. But I don't think it's like a honing beacon unless
I
they're
don't.
close by and can like feel its power. But if they're not close by, I don't think that they can get there.
I think
Because
they can
otherwise,
see him, though, if he
Sauron would have
doesn't
just
the ring on.
been able to like. I mean, Bilbo slipped it on at his party, and no one batted an eye about it.
I think they can see him without the ring. I think that it's more of a surprise that they can see him with the ring.
Right.
I don't think they can see him without the ring.
No, because they stab the wraiths think they're stabbing all of the hobbits in bed, and nobody would be wearing the ring then. They're all plunging swords into the beds with the intention of killing them.
I
So
always
they
thought it
must
was
be
like
able to see them.
like an echolocation thing, like a smell thing.
They're
Like
saying-
like I feel like bodies in this room. I was told there'd be bodies here.
and then they're all going after him on Weathertop too. Like they are pursuing him
Mhm.
before the ring does go on
Yeah,
his finger. So
That
they can
it's
see
like
him.
it's like Daredevil. To
Mm.
put it in terms you'd understand, Matt.
Okay, now I get it. You're exactly right.
Either way, he can be seen,
All right.
felt.
If you know
all
Lord of the
that.
Rings, drop me an email. Tell me what they can see and what they can't see.
Yeah. All right. So they
Anyway,
are
don't
off.
put it on. Just
Yeah, don't put it on. They're heading off. Gandalf immediately bolts, and Sam and Frodo are heading out. This is it. If I take one more step, it will be the furthest away from home I've ever been. Come on, Sam. And then Bilbo's voiceover cuts in along the lines of, "It's a dangerous business, Frodo, going out your door." So, yeah,
But if you don't
One-
keep your feet, there's no knowing where you might be
Where
swept
you-
off to.
yeah. One note about the "if I take one more step" is that line was written the night before shooting, and then added in.
Aw.
Just a small little tidbit. And it was squeezed in last
Very
minute.
cool. Such a great line.
Cool
Mhm.
tidbit.
It's really memorable. I feel like everyone knows that line.
And it really
Uh,
marks the end of like that kind of like first act. Like it is like almost just heavy-handed, like in an improv way of like,
Yeah.
and now we're going to the next
Yeah.
part of the story.
That was the
Act
prologue
2.
part 2.
Yeah.
And now we're about to start the action.
Yeah. And that is what we are covering for today. I want to first say that all of us have shows coming up on the 18th. Crossroads Comedy Theater has shows from the 16th through the 19th. But all of us are members. I'm the director. y'all are performers in Not Yet Rated, an improvised movie, and that is in South Philly, Theater Exile, 1340 South 13th Street on the 18th of December at 8:30 p.m. So if you're in the mood for some fun, want to see us in person, if anybody's even listening, then that is one opportunity to do that. Go to xroadscomedy.com for information on shows and classes. Anybody else have anything they want to throw out there? No?
Really the only thing I've got going for me.
Yeah, no, thank you.
Yeah.
Come on out. It's to remember.
Like to
Bilbo
remember.
says, you know?
Yeah. So 111th show.
Birthday.
So we're going to wrap up each podcast as we do on the other Crossroads Comedy Theater podcasts with winners and losers. So for the period that we've covered up until this basically 45-minute mark and a natural end for our podcast, with they are now setting off on their adventure, we'll start with losers. Who do you feel lost up to this point? We'll start with Matt.
I'm going to say the biggest loser is probably the Hobbit who got beheaded by the Black Rider very quickly in a montage sequence.
Yeah.
Shout out to that guy. He had a rough turn in this story.
Sure. Stacy?
I mean, all I can think of is the prologue. So I'm going to call it right now that Sauron is the biggest loser. He lost his one piece of jewelry that he made for himself in a dumb way. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
Put a glove on.
Embarrassing. Just flat out embarrassing. Who goes in for a strangle?
Hand armor on or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
That's why he's so angry. He's like, I can't believe I was so stupid to just let it get away.
He's been thinking about this for 5,000 years. So
Yeah. He made it himself. It's his own handiwork. Come on. Kelly.
So I think my loser thus far is Rosie at the tavern, because I imagine that after a big celebration like this, everyone is just probably super wasted and annoying and hitting on her. So I think, Rosie is my loser for this round.
Yeah. I'm going to go with Gollum. For getting tortured. First of all, losing the ring that he had for 500 years and getting tortured for the information to the people who have it. And he's not the one going after it. They're going after it. But I guess he is a winner in a way because he somehow escaped.
We assume that he escaped because he gave them the information they wanted.
Yeah. And winners, let's go reverse other than me, Kelly.
Winner. Honestly, I think I guess Frodo is a strange winner. Nothing is terrible yet. I think it sucks that he has to set out on this very frantic journey when he's drunk and out of it. But I think in general, it also has this air of excitement. And he seems to be like nervous, but somewhat excited about it. Again, nothing bad has happened yet. So
he won bag end. He inherited that.
He got bag end. Yes, that's a huge thing. Thank you, Stacy. So yeah, I think, so far things seem okay for him.
Yeah. Stacy?
I'm gonna have to say the ring wraith who found out where the Shire was. I mean, that they've been looking for a long time, and I'm not like on their team at all, but like if that was probably a really frustrating journey for them, and they finally found someone who could point them in the right direction, and they're narrowing in on this ring. I mean, that's huge. That's
especially if we assume they can't see. It's like that was hell.
I mean, that's a really big deal, right?
Yeah.
Just feeling their way through the forest.
Just smelling.
Smells like sausages.
Yes, always.
I'll take pork. Yeah. Matt?
Yum.
Winners have got to be, I think, off-screen winners. The Sackville Bagginses. They are about to clean up. They're about to get that house. Bilbo's gone. Frodo's gone. About to get all of Bilbo's good shit. So kudos to Sackville Baggins is waiting it out. Then finally get to steal all
Patience
his
is a
shit.
virtue.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with the inhabitants of Mordor because they have been biding their time, waiting, and all of a sudden, just shit starts percolating, and here we go. We're back in business, baby.
Yeah. Back in biz.
Yeah. All right.
Put Mordor on the map.
That's our episode. We'll be back again soon. There's no schedule for these releases. It's as we can because this thing has been out around for 20 years. And when we do our future episodes, we'll have a couple different segments, including merch. We'll have a merch segment called It Is a Gift, where we'll bring something and then link it in the comments. And if you're listening and you have any favorite Lord of the Rings merch, email us at hello@xroadscomedy.com and we'll talk about it on the pod.
And if you know anything about ring wraiths and their
sensory
ophthalmologism.
Yeah. And if this episode is any indication, it is going to take us a while just to get through the trilogy. Just to get through
2 hours to get through 45 minutes of screen time. We're doing all right.
Checks out.
Yeah. If anything, this may not be the most informative if you're looking for like behind the scenes information, but this is for people who absolutely love Lord of the Rings and a celebration of its 20 years in our lives. So I enjoy that. And thank you for being here. My fellowship, Kelly, Matt, Stacy, and you all for listening. Bye.
Thanks everyone.
Bye.